Week 14 of the fantasy football season. And here's a few wide receivers. I have his sleepers this week. The first guy, Kendall Hinton of the Denver Broncos. So right now, Courtland Sutton, he's doubtful, and he's probably not going to play in this ball game here. And Kendall Hinton, the last few weeks, he's at least been serviceable for putting up decent numbers besides Week 13. Week 10 at Tennessee, 4 catches, 62 yards. Week 11 versus Vegas, 3 catches, 57 yards. Week 12 at the Panthers, 5 catches, 35 yards, 13 rushing. And then Week 13, he thudded out, 1 catch, 11 yards at Baltimore. But right here, Week 14, in a game versus the Kansas City Chiefs, I give up the 4th most fantasy points to wide receivers on the season. I think he could have a good game. And it's going to be a game, obviously, where this Denver Bronco team is going to be chasing points early and often. And Russell Wilson will probably have to throw the ball 40 to 50 times in this one. So right now, Kendall Hinton, he's going to get more of a role in this one with Courtland Sutton out. Available in 97% of fantasy leagues. And he's definitely a sleeper option this week. The next guy, Demarcus Robinson of the Baltimore Ravens. So Robinson, we know he can make some plays and put up decent amount of fantasy points, but it seems like each and every other week fantasy player here is Demarcus Robinson for this Baltimore Raven team. So the last few games here for him, like I said, 1 good game, 1 bad game. Week 11 versus Carolina, 9 catches, 128 yards. Week 12 at the Jaguars to catch 17 yards. And then Week 13 came back with a decent game, 7 catches, 41 yards. So right here, Week 14, a good matchup at the Pittsburgh Steelers that give up the 3rd most fantasy points to wide receivers on the season. And right here, him and Huntley obviously have a decent rapport. We're practicing with each other early in the season with the second unit over there for this Baltimore Raven team. And Huntley, he's actually got a pretty decent arm as well where he could stretch the field. And we know Robinson is kind of a deep ball threat. So right now, available in 87% of fantasy leagues. He's a wide receiver that's a sleeper this week. And the 3rd and final wide receiver I have as a sleeper is Isaiah McKenzie of the Buffalo Bills. So available in 61% of fantasy leagues. Here's McKenzie. And to be honest with you, I think he's more reliable in terms of fantasy football than a Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis, it seems like he catches 2-3 balls a game, 50, 60 yards, or maybe even 15, 20 yards with a touchdown, where McKenzie's getting some goal line looks in the red zone, throwing the football, and a guy who's been a decent possession receiver. So the last few games for McKenzie, Week 10 versus Minnesota, a carry, 18 yards, 4 catches, 37 yards. Week 11, in that one, he got a goose egg. Week 12, bounced back on Thanksgiving at Detroit, 6 catches, 96 yards, a touchdown, and 7 rushing. And then last week versus New England, 5 catches, 44 yards. So this week here, I know a tough matchup on paper versus the Jets that give up the 2nd least amount of fantasy points to wide receivers on the season. But McKenzie, they like him a lot. Josh Allen obviously has more trust in him, I think, than Gabe Davis. And he's definitely a guy that could get open in the slot. So he's a sleeper this week. So that's a few wide receivers. I have his sleepers for Week 14 of the fantasy football season.